Do you or your students think that reading Part 4 from the Cambridge B1 PET exam is difficult? Well, I agree. During this part of the exam, students have to complete a text with missing sentences. But this can sometimes be confusing. In this video, I'm going to give you 3 tips to help you or your students with this part of the exam. The most important tip is tip number 2. It talks about understanding reference, so please pay a lot of attention to this tip. In the last part of the video, I share an important activity to help you or your students improve your understanding of reference. So make sure to watch it until the end. This video might be quite complicated to understand, so if you find it difficult, choose your language from the audio settings below. The first thing you need to do when you see this activity is read all the text. This text can be a story, a blog, or an article. These pieces of writing follow a logical order, so it's very important to quickly read all the text before finding the correct answers. The first time you read the text, read it quickly. Do not answer the questions. Tip number 2. Identify connectors and reference in the answers. First, let's underline the connectors because connectors can tell us a lot of information about a sentence. For example, so can introduce results. However and but introduce contrasts. Now, this next point is very important. Underline the reference in the answers. What are reference? Reference are the most important things to understand because they can help you or your learners pass this part of the exam. Reference are words like this, that, it, or they. These words are important because they refer back to a word or phrase in the previous sentence. For example, in this text from the exam activity, you can see the referent it. The referent it refers back to the green project from the previous sentence. The writer is saying that the green project is a great idea. Referents are important because they help us check our answers. So, let's underline the reference in the possible answers. That, it, they, and that are all reference. Tip number 3. Let's use all of the information you highlighted and check your answers. This is part of the exam activity. Let's try to find the answer for number 16. If you want, pause the video and try to find the correct answer. Let's try this sentence. We use so to introduce a result. The previous sentence says, so we started looking for the best trees to buy. Is our sentence, so we tried to avoid areas, the result of looking online for the best trees to buy? No, it isn't. So this cannot be the correct answer. Let's take a look at another sentence. That could mean that the trees had a disease. Does our sentence, that could mean, refer back to the previous sentence, looking online for the best trees to buy? No, it does not. It does not make sense. Let's look at another possible answer. But we soon found that choosing trees was quite complicated. We use but for contrasts. Does our sentence, choosing trees was quite complicated, contrast with the previous sentence, looking online for the best tree to buy? Yes, it does. Also, the next sentence says so many different ones available. If there are so many trees, it could be complicated to choose one. So our answer makes sense. It is correct. Now, let's look at an answer where reference can help you check that you have the correct answer. Please pause the video if you want to try the activity before I show you the correct answer. Let's take a look at the answer. That could mean the tree had a disease. This sentence starts with the referent that. What does that refer to in the previous sentence? Can that refer to strange spots and marks? Well, let's check. Strange spots and marks could mean that the tree had a disease. Does this make sense? Yes, it does. That is used to refer back to strange spots and marks from the previous sentence. It's very important that when you or when your learners work on this activity, you try to understand what these referents refer back to in the previous sentence. If you can find something that makes sense, then it's probably the correct answer. Understanding reference and connectors is very important in this part of the exam, so please work on this as much as possible. How can you or your learners improve your understanding of reference? Well, that's easy. Take any B1 level text and circle 5 referents in the text. For example, it, they, that, these, and them. Then ask your learners, what do these referents refer back to? Learners then have to find the answer in the previous sentence. For example, it refers back to a historical village. They refers back to people dressed in old-fashioned clothes. And that refers back to a house from the 1800s. You can also check that you have found the correct information by substituting the reference. For example, in the phrase "that was the most interesting building," we can rub out the referent and add the phrase from the previous sentence. A house from the 1800s was the most interesting building. You can see that this answer makes sense. If you practice this type of activity with your students, you will see a significant improvement in your students' reading skills, not only in this part of the exam, but in other reading activities too. That's it for today. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time.